I'm on a mission to beat 100 video games every year, and I just finished SLITTERHEAD for the very first time. Let's talk about it. When I review games, I try really hard not to use inflammatory language like trash, worthless, horseshit, etc. But when I was yelling at my screen playing this game, I said all of those things about it, and I meant every word. This is the new action horror title from Bokeh Game Studios, a brand new development team founded by the creator of Silent Hill, and on paper it actually has a lot of really good ideas. Imagine a game where you can play as a spirit that can possess anyone on the street, and a few of those people have special latent abilities that allow them to use their own blood as all kinds of weapons and tools. This spirit has no memory, but instinctively knows that within the city there are scores of horrible monsters masquerading as regular humans and secretly preying upon the weak, and it's your job to seek them out and eradicate them. Sounds pretty cool, right? Now imagine that whoever had all these amazing ideas hired a team that was dead set on sabotaging the production and releasing the most uninspired, tedious, boring, broken experience imaginable. Some of its visuals are interesting, but in a time where any random dude in a basement could make a game with good graphics, SLITTERHEAD's stilted art design makes its characters look like some sideways take on Team America World Police. Earlier I called this an action horror title, but the truth is there is absolutely no real horror at all, and using the word action anywhere near this game is extremely generous and borderline false advertising. As cool as the general idea is, 95% of the plot is spooned out to you in the form of these non-voiced nothing cutscenes where a character's just sitting on a couch and you just read about what they're thinking. And that written dialogue just keeps coming whether it's needed or not. This is probably the worst example I've ever seen of a game that just will not let you play for more than 10 seconds without interrupting you. Literally, when you start a mission, it's like, okay, let's read 2 paragraphs of dialogue about stuff we already knew, then you can take 5 steps, then 2 more useless lines of dialogue like, I bet she's down this alleyway, then 4 more steps, 5-second cutscene, more dialogue, a couple more steps, another mini cutscene, and it just never ever stops. The only time you're ever let loose at all is during the usually short combat sequences, and even then the combat is frustratingly imprecise, the lock-on system gives you no control whatsoever, and almost all of those cool abilities are actually less effective than just mashing attack until the enemy dies. There are, I believe, 5 enemy types in the entire game that you just have to fight over and over and over, and one of them is the boss. That's right, there are dozens of boss fights in this game, and all but about 3 of them are the same basic thing with pretty much exactly the same tired moveset every time, and those other 3 bosses are just humans. The way the story wraps up is somehow both nonsensical and predictable, but honestly, by that point I was so exhausted with even having to slog through it that I wasn't really listening anymore. It is incredibly rare for me to argue that a game is just objectively better off not existing, but I swear to God, it seems like they were trying to make the worst game possible when they released this disaster. I rank every game I beat, and I ranked this 97 out of the 98 games I've beaten so far this year, and 541 out of the 545 games I've beaten since the beginning of 2020. So yeah, that's how SLITTERHEAD went, and I'm ready to put it behind me and pick up the next game. I always appreciate those of you that hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, and next up we'll be starting our very first playthrough of Mafia 2 Definitive Edition, so feel free to follow if you want to know my final thoughts on that once it's beaten and where it ends up on the rankings.